came from corrupt media, and then we started not corrupt media, just to clarify there. Well, welcome. How are you guys doing? Day 2. Yeah, you got enough sleep, not like John and I here.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining us. Head of Strategy at Coinbase. I hope you brought the strategies because you're going to spill the beans today.
It's a great title because it doesn't mean anything, and I can just do what I want. So yeah.
Perfect. So the boss is not going to yell at us for you spilling the strategy today. Let's run it back for this conversation, because in the past 3 years, the digital asset market has seen some rough waters, or saw some rough waters, starting with early 2022. We had Terra Luna, we had another major crash in 23 with FTX, all the way until early 2024. And then here we are with ETFs. I mean, it went from complete disaster to complete victory. Yep. Will you walk us through these events, and how did these events shape the current sentiment in institutional adoption today?
Sure, happy to, and thank you so much for having me. Thanks so much. This is great. I love how subtle the decor is. So look, I mean, here's the good news. The good news is that despite all of those very notable events, and they were horrific, and I used to hate when people in the industry would try to underplay the impact of an FTX failure. It was disastrous, and many people lost a lot of money, and it was horrible for the industry. It was horrible for the value loss. It was also horrible because structurally it was always a massive problem, and this is the part that I think we've now kind of turned a corner on as a sector. So I was very public about my concern around FTX, not because of anything I knew or anything like that. But structurally, they owned the market maker and they owned the exchange. They owned the price discovery mechanism, which is the exchange, and they owned an entity that profits off of price discovery. You cannot do that. That's like a lawyer representing both sides of the case. And it just struck, I just didn't understand why nobody cared. And some of it was just, I hate to say this, some of it was a lot of folks who moved into crypto just don't have institutional trading backgrounds. They didn't understand why that was a problem. Because in the very early days, the wild kind of crazy days, that was kind of okay. And they didn't understand that as you scale these sectors, that just becomes untenable. So I knew for a fact that there was a problem with Alameda. What I didn't understand is that they would be greedy or dumb enough to blow it up. Because if you gave me the keys to all the price discovery and I was trading, I would be a first trillionaire, and you would never know. Like, I thought they were just going to steal money quietly forever and be the first trillionaires. I didn't have the imagination to understand that they would be, quite frankly, dumb enough. Like, if you know the price at the end of the day and you lose money, something's really, really wrong. But they were. And so then we had that. But the good news is, while all that was happening, the boring guys like me on the institutional side were quietly building and working with the BlackRocks of the world and getting us ready and just chipping away at all the arguments. The good news about our country still is there's a process. And even if a regulator is antagonistic to that process, they have to follow the process. And they can stall and they can make up excuses and give you new rounds of comments. But if you have the capital and the lawyers and the intelligence and the facts on your side, you will, and you're committed, you will slowly win. Eventually, they have to give in. Now, ideally, they give in on the merits. Sometimes they give in because the courts compel them to give in. But we were very, very lucky to have players like BlackRock and Bitwise and others. I mean, Bitwise doesn't get enough credit for this. I mean, they've been, I helped those guys 5 years ago find the lawyer that helped structure their first attempt at an ETF. They've been doing thousands, if not tens of thousands of meetings, laying the groundwork. And we hear about, the ETF launches and it's sold a lot. And we all pat ourselves in the back because we think crypto is so great. These products are sold, not bought. The people buying these ETFs are my mother. They don't know what they want to buy. So it takes the Bitwises of the world and the BlackRocks and the Van Ex. They do tens of thousands of meetings to prime the pump so that we have, I think, 240 million of ETF inflows. So it's really very manual, hard work. And the good news is it's happening throughout the ebbs and flows and the disasters and the catastrophes and all that nonsense. And I hope that every time we have one of these, we weed out those, not even bad actors, because you'll always have bad actors, just clowns. Like, just get rid of the absolute clowns and at least let the frauds be smart. Like, I want to be fooled by a smart person, not just an obvious fraud.
Are you trying to get rid of the degens? Is this what you're telling?
No, degens are fine. Degens are fine. They just shouldn't run. They shouldn't run $500 billion companies. But degens are fine.
What's interesting is when you look at that timeline in 2022, 2023, there wasn't a lot of confidence with investors or institutions at all. In fact, Gary Gensler and Senator Warren, they were just on a mission and a half to just in place these very, very strict rules on crypto and on digital assets. And then all of a sudden, we had a switch. A switch flipped, and we had the Bitcoin ETF 2 days ago. We had the Ethereum ETF. What were institutional, and by the way, we even saw regulatory adjustments to cater and accommodate these new products.
Yeah.
What changed all of a sudden? What were institutional investors looking for then that they didn't trust at that time, but then now they're so interested and they have a completely different feel for it?
So the institutional interest was always there. The biggest concern, it's not price volatility. Like everyone who says like, oh, institutions not, first of all, volatility does not equal risk, and institutions know how to manage volatility and risk very, very well. Bitcoin, I used to trade I was head of strategy at the New York Mercantile Exchange, which was the largest commodities derivatives exchange in the world. I traded natural gas options. Natural gas options make Bitcoin look like a muni bond. Like it doesn't scare me. It doesn't scare lots of people. Bitcoin volatility is not that scary. So that's not it. It was the regulatory uncertainty. And I know it seems like a switch was flipped. It was actually a ton of hard work with folks like Stand With Crypto who've been messaging into DC. And I'm not a policy guy, so I'm gonna get over my ski tips here, but they've been messaging for years that this is a united, mostly single issue voter block, and it's real and it's young and it's aggressive and it's passionate. For whatever reason, no one was listening. Then some stuff happened about 10 weeks ago, and one of the candidates made a comment, and then suddenly everybody said, oh wow, you're not lying, this is true. And they realized, oh, we're getting thousands of letters and calls. And I wish I could say it was the tech and the philosophy that changed DC's perspective, but honestly, it's the votes. And that's actually better for us. I know we want it to be pure and true and honest, but what's better for us is they now realize that we have voting power. We are a voting bloc. And the good news is that matters no matter who's in power. So that's what changed. Is just quite frankly, a candidate made a public comment, and then everyone got scared they were going to lose those votes, and now everyone's trying to do the rational, reasonable thing. Plus, again, like it wasn't like people had given up. If people had given up on the ETF and not fought through, it still wouldn't have gotten passed. Even if people claim, oh, a call came in from DC. I don't know about all that stuff. But we were on the edge anyway and just being pushed back irrationally. So we were right on that teetering edge. And I think that the attitude was like, look, this is going to happen anyway. You can't keep saying no forever. BlackRock knows what they're doing. They're not going to file for something that's just wrong. So if you're going to have to give up eventually, do it now. Why are you irrationally pushing back? Because we're going to lose these votes for no reason, because it's going to happen no matter what. That's my layman's interpretation of kind of what went down.
What do you think institutional investors are looking for now when it comes to an asset class from the perspective of true institutionalization?
Okay, so I was asked a question. I was asked I want to be helpful to everyone here. So I was asked, what will institutions start increasing their interest in trading Litecoin and investing in Litecoin? So I'm going to try to be very brief here. This is my world. I traded options and derivatives. I teach it at MIT. I'm the boards of several of the largest crypto asset hedge funds and also TradFi hedge funds. And I serve as head of strategy for Coinbase. So we see all that. I talk to lots and lots and lots of hedge funds. So very, very simply, there are two types of institutional investors. There are what I call allocators, and there are traders. Traders are hedge funds. Allocators are long-term investors, pensions, insurance pools, people who have like sovereign debt funds, sovereign wealth funds, endowments, anyone with a longer-term vision who is not a fiduciary. They're managing their own money or their citizens' money or their school's money. They're not managing like, I take money from you, I start a hedge fund, I'm a fiduciary. I got to think about your interest over mine. and I got to think about your interest on a quarterly basis, usually, because I print a number quarterly, and you get to decide based on that number if you want to stay in my fund or not. So I may be a hedge fund that says I think long term, but I'm lying. I think quarter to quarter, because if I have a bad quarter, all my money goes away, and I'm no longer a hedge fund. So those are traders in my parlance. So you have traders, you have investors. Now, hedge funds care about the investment thesis. They don't not care about it. They want to know that an asset has a long-term investment thesis. They're not thinking they're investing for that reason, but they need to know other people are. Because you can't have an asset that's just traded by hedge funds, by speculators. That's just like I used to have a not politically correct analogy for this. No, I'm not saying that because somebody's filming. I'm going to get canceled. That's like that's not. It doesn't make any sense. That's like if you want to sell your bike on eBay and everybody's trying to sell their bike. There's no buyers, right? That just doesn't make any sense. You need what's called breadth and depth of market. Depth of market is how liquid it is, how many times a day it trades. But that can be illusory. You can have a really deep market, but it's all the same type of trader. They could all live in the same place. When I was at NYMEX, the city of Houston got evacuated in 2002. Never before. Hurricane Rita, I believe. And all of our natural gas liquidity dried up because we realized all of it was hedge funds in Houston. So we didn't have breadth. Breadth of market is different people in the market for different reasons. Some are bullish, some are bearish, some are investors, some are traders, some are dumb, some are smart. But you need that diversity of opinion in a market to make it real. So what traders are looking for, ultimately, so investors are looking for a fundamental story. What is the long-term use case and why is it valuable to society? Traders are looking for things like basically breadth of market, lots of different participants. They're looking for cyclicality. So for example, in commodities, traders love trading commodities because you have weather, seasonal cyclicality. Right? There's a driving season, and then people drive less in the winter. And they can map that cyclicality. California, the state of California, a certain time every year, they go to low emission octane gas, and then a different type of grade. So they love these patterns because they can trade off of those patterns. They're not scared of volatility. They just want the volatility to be within predictable bands. They don't want to wake up one day and have it just like spike or drop for no reason because liquidity is dried out. They're perfectly happy trading volatile. By the way, they love volatile assets. The last thing they want is a boring, non-volatile asset. Hedge funds don't make money trading in things that don't move. So volatility is not scary, but the predictability of volatility is a bit scary. They don't want even something like people say the moon cycle in China influenced crypto prices. That's fine because the moon cycle is predictable. So that's a good type of cyclicality. So they're looking for that. So it's a bit of chicken and egg. You got to get the institutional allocators excited about the long-term use case. They enter markets first usually, and then the speculators, the traders, the hedge funds, they layer on because they see opportunities because the institutional allocators are more buy and hold, or they're more maybe they're a little more scared. They can't take drawdowns, so the traders come in and buy those dips. So that's what you're looking to get. You're looking to make both sides happy in that way. Breadth and depth of market, different types of participants. And this kind of goes to my advice. I was asked to give my advice about how to improve Litecoin's liquidity and attractiveness amongst institutions. The metrics are pretty good, right? You had, I think, in July 1, you had more addresses than Bitcoin for a brief period. There's nothing wrong with the fundamentals of the asset. There's nothing wrong with the story behind the asset. But you have to sell that marketing component is probably what's suffering the most. So you have to sell that story to the institutional allocators, the long-term use case believers, and get them to buy into that long-term use case. Whether it's, hey, we're gonna lean into NFTs and ordinals on Litecoin. We're going to, this will be the home for high transaction ordinals and NFT type transactions. Maybe that's it. Maybe you lean into certain industry sectors. I'll tell you about a project I'm working on. I'm a big fan of that. For those of you from Tennessee or hopefully believe in, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So I brought St. Jude over to Coinbase, and they're going to start issuing. So I'm not sure if everyone knows who St. Jude is. Part of their round of applause. They're freaking amazing. I've been volunteering there for 20 years, and they do something called patient art. The kids draw art as part of their therapy. They sell that art at Christie's. They raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want all that stuff on chain. I want it on Base, but I put it on Litecoin, and I want the next NFT craze to be supporting kids with cancer. Why not? NFT is about building community, right? Some communities are about getting into yacht parties in Miami. That's fine for some people. I want the next time some person spends $4 million on a JPEG, I want $2 million to cure kids with cancer. So thinking about things like that and projects like that, aligning yourself with entities like that, build the story. The story brings the institutional allocators. The institutional allocators bring the hedge funds. Liquidity increases. So I didn't mean to rant.
No, this was a great rant. I feel like, yeah, go ahead. Please do. That well-deserved. That was a college course. You will all be charged tuition in just a minute. But you bring up a very good point, because as a broadcast journalist, and a storyteller, we are all, every single one of us, are always telling a story. And one thing that brands and people miss constantly is that they try to be something that they think is going to make everyone happy and that everyone can relate to, because it's that one thing that they're going to make up. But the truth is, people relate to real, and they relate to stories that are real. And so I bring this up because I want you sort of gave an answer, a big picture answer, but I want to ask you to be brutally honest here, because I want to ask you, when we look at, we're at a Litecoin conference, and so I'm going to bring up Litecoin, because when you look at Litecoin has been here longer than Ethereum, is, in my opinion, as big as, or can be as big as Bitcoin. It is ranked in the top 20. It is, the volatility, it's really hasn't been, there hasn't been a volatility. Even through the crashes, Litecoin did actually better than any other digital asset. It is faster, it is cheaper, so it marks a lot of the boxes, yet it's still not qualified for an ETF. And you brought up story and relatability, and you brought up some really good points here that I've even seen brands miss. What is it that Litecoin is missing, in your opinion, to qualify for an ETF?
So obviously we custody all the ETFs, and so I speak to all these guys, and I wanted to help. So in addition to polling about 15 hedge funds that I know as to why they don't trade Litecoin more, I polled a bunch of the ETF, the big ones, the ones who are deciding which ETFs go live. Think of the ETF folks as like a Hollywood film studio, right? You ever wonder why all the movies seem derivative? Right, it's the same freaking movie over and over again. They're not dumb. They're doing that because the capex of building and making a movie is so freaking high that the risk associated with failure is massive, and they can't have a failure. Because we don't have like indie movies anymore. We have $100 million Marvel blockbusters. And they got to run all through an algo and through focus groups, and they have to go with the highest probability successful event. And that usually is the same crap over and over again. The ETF providers are no different. It's a lot of money and a lot of headaches, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars to get an ETF in place. It's resource intensive internally, so they can't have like 10 different assets in play. So they got to make a really strategic decision, and based entirely on what is the highest probability of adoption. And again, Litecoin, in my humble opinion, not in Coinbase, but everything I say is me, not Coinbase. In my humble opinion, based on the conversations I've had, it has a marketing and story problem. That's the issue. And so that feeds into the ETF providers, who are not necessarily crypto experts, but they're talking to the buy side, they're talking to the funds. What are you excited about? What's interesting right now? What's the highest probability of getting flows day one? And Litecoin's not on their lips right now. You need an ambassador, you need a story, you need something. So it's an unsatisfying answer. I know, and I apologize for giving you an unsatisfying answer. But that's what I'm hearing, and that's what the ETF providers are telling me. It's not that they're against it. They're agnostic. They don't care. They want to make money, so they're going to bang an ETF out in the thing that will have the highest inflows. So Bitcoin had incredible internal marketing. People ask me, I got asked by the Wall Street, when the CME launched the Bitcoin futures contract, 4 years ago, they called me, the Wall Street Journal called me and said, are you surprised by this? No, I'm not surprised. That's of course, my job at NYMEX was to think of new contracts. I just spent all this money on marketing, because if I come up with like a penultimate Dees crude oil derivative, who the hell knows what that is, who cares? Bitcoin had the best marketing ever. My mother knows what Bitcoin is, and she can't change the time on her VCR. So, of course they're going to launch a Bitcoin future. Why the hell? They'd be insane if they didn't launch a Bitcoin future. That's how the ETF providers, they're looking around, they're scouring the assets. They'll do bonk before they do something else, just because they think it can get early inflows. I mean, I don't think they're going to do bonk, but like that, they're not they're not investing in the future in the technology. They're building a product that has a return on capital requirement, and they got to go with what's hot.
That's incredible because in the past few days, and I cannot believe we just ran out of time, I just want to say this. In the past few days that I've been learning even more about Litecoin and Charlie, I think Charlie Lee has an amazing story. And I think his story is the Litecoin story. And oftentimes founders don't bring that story to the forefront. They keep it in the background. And that one thing is, go ahead.
I want to echo that, and I'm so sorry,
Go ahead.
I'll be remiss if I didn't say this because it's what I've been screaming about for the last couple of years. Crypto has the same problem hedge funds had. People hate hedge funds. People in Congress and the regular person hate hedge funds, which is weird because private equity guts pensions, not hedge funds. Hedge funds just trade stocks, and I never understood why. But I know why because we picked hedge funds. My old business picked the worst ambassadors, the worst people. Just the people you want to punch in the face when you see them were like this de facto spokespeople. Crypto has the same problem. So I want guys like Charlie, elevate yourself. Let's pick the right messengers. Let's pick people who are passionate, yes, but who are normal people, who are empathetic, who are reasonable, who are thoughtful. Let's pick likable people and push them, elevate them. Don't allow the screamers to grab the mic. I say this as I'm screaming. I'm understanding the irony of this. Let's have likable people with good stories, right? Can we just get the Lambo culture the hell out of this sector? Because the average person in the street struggling to pay their rent is not impressed by that.
Thank you for that. I know that we've run out of time. I cannot believe there's so much to talk to you about, John. And people are not here for me, they're here for you. So if it's okay with production, I want to take one question maybe. Are you guys okay with that? We good? Does anyone have a question for John? Yeah? There you go.
Mona, I'm sorry for monopolizing the conversation. That was very rude of me.
No, this is real. We're here to talk real, right?
Well, you gave me the microphone, and I've been known to monopolize the microphone. I'm kidding. John, we met earlier. What do you see as the future in the evolution of Web 3.0 wallet combined with the current business of Coinbase today, and where do you see the evolution of the future revenue streams, where this is all going to end up, and take a year out, 2 year, 3 year? Thanks.
Yeah, so So my tagline is on my LinkedIn is I call myself a cynical enthusiast. As I got into crypto, I wrote a paper at MIT about the DAO hack like 7, 8 years ago, and I called myself a cynical enthusiast, and a really smart guy called Olaf Carlson Weave founded Polychain, called me and said, hey, I need people like that. And I got to learn about crypto at Polychain, which was awesome. I see the future of this, so because of that, I think it's going to be big, but I think it's going to be what I call lowest common denominator use cases. I think it's going to be, like we all want it, we all want this stuff to be like human identity and solving child trafficking, all that great stuff, and solving monetary issues. I think it's going to be like shits and giggles. I think it's going to be like the fun stuff. It's going to be entertainment, gaming. What you're doing is really, really cool, where I'm going to gamify or develop a relationship with my mobile provider where I'm getting back things I like crypto and smart contracts, and engage with me in a different way. I think that the killer use case for me is going to be, I think like it's going to be more of the Kim Kardashian mind that solves it than the Steve Jobs mind. I hate to say that, but that's okay because it's going to create usability and get people excited about working with it. So I'm really hoping that gaming kind of cracks that code and gets us really excited about Web3 gaming and the interactivity and the composability and the fungibility of characters. I don't game. I game when I'm trying to get closer to my nephew, and so I play Xbox on his raids, and he crushes me. And I'm even frustrated because I play for like 2 hours and earn a gun, and he plays for 19 and beats my pants off. I want that composability of taking my product and I don't want to drop he wants to move to a new game. I'm like, screw that. I don't have time to earn a new gun. I want to take that avatar and that gun with me to that different composable market. And I'll pay to do it. So I think that's the short-term future. Longer-term future, all bets are off. The whole world will be on chain. I believe that. I don't know if that's going to be my lifetime or my daughter's lifetime. But I think short-term, I think it's going to be Web3 gaming and stuff, the kind of stuff that you're doing.
I'm going to keep talking until production tells me no. John, last night you and I were talking, and you said something that completely...
We got to go. They're the hook.
We're just going to have to bring John back. Thank you so much
Thank you
for your time. Appreciate you.